Morning, Hope Church. I hope you're keeping well and that you're okay during lockdown. During lockdown, I've noticed that a lot of our church are very creative. They're posting pictures on Facebook, some people are, of what they've been drawing, what they've been painting, poems they've been writing, or musical instruments that they've been learning to play or can already play very well. At the beginning of lockdown, we did the lockdown challenge, didn't we? What we're learning in lockdown. As a church, we did that. And lots of people put really inspiring things on there that inspired me anyway. And during lockdown, I've set up a little room. And for a few years now, I've been interested in pottery. So during lockdown, we decided to create a little room, there's the kiln, where I can make some creations out of clay. And there's the wheel behind me there. I'm just a beginner, so don't laugh at any of the creations you might have noticed. And I know there are a lot better potters out there than myself. But as I've been working with clay, some of the things I've learned is that there's things you have to do to the clay before you can make a masterpiece. And one of the things is to choose the right clay. So for example, if you're working on the wheel, you don't want a clay that's really coarse or got bits in it, got rubbishy bits in it, because it will ruin your hands, it will hurt you. Secondly, before you do anything with clay, you've got to get the air out of it. And that means wedging it. Sometimes hear the banging of the clay. That gets all the air out of it, So when you put it in the kiln, it doesn't explode, because if it explodes again, your masterpiece is ruined. And I like using the wheel to make things. And one of the key things when you use the wheel for clay is that you center the clay on it. And this means getting your lump of clay and banging it onto the wheel really hard. And that makes the clay stick to the wheel so it doesn't fly off when you're trying to make something. Also, part of the centering process with the clay is that you get water on your hands and the wheel is spinning and you squeeze the clay with your hand. You apply pressure. And this takes the wobble out of the clay. And really experienced potters can do this fairly quickly. And you can feel when it changes, when the wobble leaves. Because if you create something if you try to use the clay and it's got wobble still in it, your vase will end up wobbly. You've got to make the clay solid and strong so you get a solid and strong vase. But sometimes even after doing all that, it doesn't work. The clay just has a wobble, it falls over, it breaks. And that can be really frustrating. But I was watching on YouTube an experienced potter and they said, you know what, sometimes that has to happen. Sometimes the pot has to be broken or ruined, but nothing's ever wasted because you learn from that experience. So even though that's frustrating, don't worry if your pot gets ruined because you can learn from that. And as I've been working with clay, I've noticed that and learning about how to use it, I was reminded of this verse in Ephesians 2 verse 10, and it says this. I'll read this to you. For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus, so we can do the good things he planned for us long ago. For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus, so we can do the good things he planned for us long ago. So sometimes I've been thinking, I don't know about you, but sometimes I can feel like a bit of a lump of clay, a bit of a lump of nothing. What can God possibly do with that? What can God possibly do with me? But I think if we have a willing heart and we're obedient to God, God will use us. The God of the universe will step and walk alongside us in our lives, won't he? He'll come along and teach us things. By his grace, we'll get to know our full potential and our full worth through him, and he will change us. All we've got to have is a willing heart and the ability to put Christ and God at the centre of our lives. Be willing to put him at the centre so we can be changed. Put him at the centre through reading the scriptures as we get to know him, praying to him and listening to him as he speaks to us, and delighting in him through our worship. These are the ways that we can put God at the centre of our lives. And as we put God more and more at the centre, the wobble in us leaves us. Just like the clay on the wheel, the more we're centred, the more we feel strong, the more we feel solid, that wobble will leave us. And we will become God's masterpiece, won't we? So it's been lovely to chat to you. And hopefully by the end of lockdown, I'll make no promises, but hopefully by the end of lockdown, I might be making more of this. Out of this. But anyway, lovely to chat to you. See you soon.